The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and tonight I'm joined by the lovely Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello.
Oh, you sound so enthusiastic tonight.
Oh my God, is all I can say.
Has it really been one of those weeks?
Yeah, thanks to you. All I'm saying is my brain has literally dribbled out of my ears, and I've never done so much face palming in my entire life since I started looking at this yesterday and today. It's like, oh my God.
Well, it's constantly been, this subject has constantly been on my news feed for the last week or two. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to cover it and why people still believe it so much.
That's a very good question. Why? Why do people think this? Why do they think this?
I know, and for those that don't know what we're talking about the flat Earth theory. I've got no idea why people still believe it, to be fair.
I did actually look into this, and it's part of the conspiracy theory mindset. And it's about breaking from psychologists. They believe that it's another way that they can break out from the norm of authoritarianism. That word, I can't say it. It's one of them long words that I can't say. So it's another way that people can sort of like buck the trend, buck the rules and regs of the society we live in. So it's more to do with the conspiracy mindset than it is actually to do with the fact they really believe that the Earth is flat, and they'll make up they'll look at things, however tenuous, to try and back up that conspiracy. And it's actually about moving out of that, what you're told, the sheeple mindset.
Yeah.
So that's why people believe it, I think. That's what the psychologists reckon anyway.
Well, again, I've done some digging into the history of the flat Earth theory.
Go on then.
And it comes from, apparently, the Bible. They don't actually specify that the Earth is flat, but they talk about the edge of the Earth, the four corners of the planet. Uh-huh. The ancient Egyptians apparently believed that the Earth was square and flat, and the mountains were on each corner of the Earth, and that would be what's holding up the sky.
I kind of forgive the ancients for thinking things like this because they didn't know any better, and their world was so small. Yeah, but now in the day and age we live in, I kind of start shaking and going, why? Why do you think that? But that's my perspective, everybody. That's just my opinion. I'm not caning anybody's opinion out there at all. Just disclaimer. But like I say, in the ancient times, I get it because you didn't know any better. But now we know so much more. So why? Why?
Well, there was a guy, I can't remember, I remember reading it today actually, but I can't remember his name is, and I'm trying to find the article now. Basically, his whole belief system is because of a spirit level. He had a spirit level, and he got on an aeroplane.
Yes.
And he travelled to the other side of the planet, but because the air bubble stayed constant in the middle, all the way around, he believed that the plane just flew straight.
Yeah.
Not actually around.
Yeah.
And that's his... because obviously that proved to him that it's flat. Yeah. That's...
Well, you know, if you want to ignore things like gravity and stuff, you know, carry on.
Well, exactly. That sort of... Yeah. It's... That was his whole belief on that. There was another one I see on YouTube the other day, and he had a football. And he poured water all over the football. And where the water dribbled off, he's like, that's why the Earth's not flat. And then he got a plate, and he poured the water on the plate, and he said, "Let the water stayed. That's why the Earth's flat." You know, never mind gravity. Gravity doesn't exist for them.
This is the main point, actually, in all the theories of why the Earth is flat that they could come up with. They were missing some fundamental points of physics, and also, you know, oh God, where do you start with it? I mean, gravity is like one of the main things with all of these little things that they come out with, and people misunderstand it. They think it's just a pull that is downwards.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a pull to the centre, which is why people in Australia stay up. Do you know what I mean? Because it's pulling to the centre. I mean, this is the other thing. I heard one thing. I watched one video that said that if it's round, why don't people in Australia fall off? I'm like, oh my God. Seriously, people think this. And it pulls to the centre, not just down to the surface.
Yes, indeed.
That's the point. That's the point of it all. This is why gyroscopes.
Exactly, in a zero gravity
Lovely.
environment.
He's just put physics.com. Trust me, I've been looking at physics all day. It blew my mind, some of it. But yeah, I mean, it's basic physics.
Yeah, exactly. In a zero gravity environment, water will float in a circle. And obviously, our planet is in a zero gravity area, and the water is what creates the circular part of the planet.
Circular thing is where we're going with that, is it?
Yeah.
But is it
if you removed all the water,
when you go to the equator, yeah, dead on the equator, water will go straight down the plug hole. Go to one side and it goes anti-clockwise. Go to the other side, it goes clockwise. And that's to do with the gravitational pull.
Yes, well done.
I believe also, anyway. Honestly, I looked at so much stuff today. I'm like, ah!
On one of the websites on the history of the flat Earth, it said that Aristotle argued for a spherical Earth for these reasons. Right,
okay.
And some of these are quite funny, actually.
Go on then.
The gradual disappearance of ships over the horizon, the tops of the sails disappearing last. That's why that's the ship just going out of the horizon and still going all the way around. Yeah, I can understand that one. The shape of the curved shadow of the Earth on the Moon during the eclipse, again, makes perfect sense. 3, the variation of the Sun's elevation with latitude. Again, you know, that makes sense to me. 4, the variation of the star's elevation with a latitude. The fact that no one sees new stars as one moves north or south on the Earth's surface. Again, yeah, I can understand that one. This one made me laugh, right? Proof by elephants. When one travels from it says proof by elephants, right? Now,
Okay.
he's obviously, Aristotle doesn't know what one elephant from another species looks like. It says proof by elephants. When one travels from Greece, one finds elephants, which is the African elephant. When one travels east, one finds the elephant, which is the Asian elephant, but he doesn't know the difference between the two, so he kind of thought whatever way you go, you'll meet in the same elephant. And he listed that as his proof that the Earth's round.
Okay, bless him.
That was funny.
But your knowledge is only, to be fair, with something like that far back, you can only go on. At least he was pushing forward ideas and trying to, explain things he was seeing. In reality, okay, so we got that elephant thing completely wrong, but it kind of, at least he's thinking, at least he's pushing those ideas forward. You know what I mean? And you can only do that within your realm of knowledge, but at least he's trying to expand that knowledge and push ideas out beyond
exactly.
the
And I
Earth
think
is flat.
I think it was pretty much spot on with all the other ones, but the elephant. But then, as it said in the article, like, he didn't know what the difference between each species of elephant was. So he couldn't compare the two. So okay, you can forgive him for that one, but he's still got the right idea.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, even again, I read earlier that Christopher Columbus, before he was about to set sail, people tried to urge him not to go, just in case he fell off the edge of the earth.
It's so Discworld, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? It's hilarious.
When you do look back in time at these older people, I say ideas, beliefs, older beliefs of the
Yep.
Earth being flat. You kind of, poor old Christopher Columbus, they're worried that he's going to fall off the face of the Earth, and he was like, no, I'm going to see what's beyond the horizon, but there must have been something in him pretty sure that he wasn't going to fall off the face of the Earth, otherwise he wouldn't have had a crew.
Exactly. I mean, it does say in this article that the Bible, from Genesis to Revelations, a flat Earth book. While the Bible nowhere states categorically the Earth is flat, numerous Old Testament verses clearly show that the ancient Hebrews were flat earthers. This comes through more clearly in the modern translations, such as the New English Bible. So
Yes,
I think that is
back
where...
back in the day, they
I know, but that's what I'm saying. This is where the idea of the flat Earth theory comes from, and people are taking the Bible too literal.
I don't think all flat earthists now, though, are staunch Christians, though. Do you?
No, but as I said, I mean, you got the Hebrews, they believed that in the flat Earth. The Egyptians had a belief in the flat Earth. People from Greece, the Grecians, or whatever they're known as.
We'll go with Grecian.
Yeah, that's a good one for me as well, because I just made that up. But they all believed and had an essential belief that the Earth was flat, and that is where the initial flat Earth theory comes from. But I don't understand where the new flat earthers, where they get their ideas from. I mean, didn't quite recently, didn't someone try and launch a rocket?
Yes,
to
they
prove
did.
that the Earth. I mean, I didn't
yes.
hear too much after that.
No, because he didn't succeed because he didn't get the funding. He put up a GoFundMe. Out there.
How much did he want? A tenner?
Well, quite a lot of money. But he didn't want to go into space. He just wanted to go high enough to see whether or not there's a curvature of the Earth or not. But the guy who jumped out of the plane at the atmospheric level, I think, could have proved that one for him.
Yeah.
The ultimate skydiving guy. But, oh, dearie me.
Well,
I don't know. As I say, I don't think in this day and age, you can't argue with the physics of it all, really.
But people are. People are still doing it. People are still arguing the fact that the Earth is flat.
Yes, I know that. To give you guys an idea, there's one YouTube channel, just the one, that's got 85,000 followers on it to do with the flat earth theory.
Yeah.
Believers, a believing channel. There is a conference that goes on that is hundreds of pounds to attend, which was sold out at the beginning of last year, I believe that was. Yeah, in North Carolina, that was. Flat Earth International Conference.
Okay.
Yep. There's a conference, guys. Oh, I so want to go to that one.
You want to go with a team of doctors?
Physicists. I want to take all my sceptical friends, all my physicists, all the people that I know.
I'm thinking more mental illness ones.
He's still planning the rocket launch, apparently. Mad Mike is still planning. Mad Mike. I mean, what a name. He's still planning on this rocket launch. So
he's mad because he's just annoyed. That's what it is.
I wonder though, psychologically, right? So he's going up to prove the Earth is flat. So when he gets shot up in his rocket and he looks down and he sees the natural curvature of the Earth, he's going to have such a crashing belief system, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? I mean, even what program was it? There was a Brian Cox program, and he was taken up in he was taken up into a fighter jet. Mm-hmm. And he basically chased the sun at sunset, and he followed it all the way around, and you can still see the curvature of the Earth.
I love the fact they believe everything from NASA is all photoshopped.
Yeah, weird people. I don't know, really.
It's all. The point is, though, and I have to say this point. I mean, I looked into relative motion. I've looked into experiments that they've tried to prove that the Earth is flat. I've looked into gravity today. I've looked into light refraction. Oh God, I've looked into so much stuff today. It's untrue. Like I say, my brain has dribbled out of my ears with trying to understand some of these terminologies that they've been using. And the one thing that really strikes me is, why would there be a conspiracy? I get conspiracies in regards to things like JFK or 9/11. I can understand why people would build a conspiracy around that. But I don't understand why people would build a conspiracy. Why is the Earth flat? How does that serve a purpose? It doesn't serve a purpose. That conspiracy in itself doesn't serve a purpose. Whereas I do understand why, for political reasons, people would build up a conspiracy regarding, like I say, JFK or 9/11 or those kind of things, but not the Earth being flat. I kind of don't get that.
No, and it, again, in something else that I read earlier, it said like about all the different people and civilizations that believed the Earth was flat, and then it said about these tiny tribes and things in the jungle and what they believed about it, and they didn't really care. And
exactly, they just care about where their food's going to come from and where the next hunt is going to happen. Stuff like that. And
it was just funny. It's just why do we need to? Why do we care so much?
And that's the bit I couldn't get my head around when I was looking into this. Is why is it such a big deal, whether it's flat or round, to these people? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I really don't know, to be fair.
Because they're undermining the establishment. I really don't think the governments care whether you think it's flat or round, because it serves no purpose to think either way, quite frankly. You know what I mean? That we're brainwashing children into thinking it's a sphere when, technically it's not a true sphere, it's an oblate sphere, allegedly. But that's a theory in itself. No, it is. It's not it's not like a football, the world.
No, isn't it sort of, although it's round, it's still like an oval. It's not completely circle, is it?
It's not completely circle. It's sort of wider, I think, slightly. We're talking slightly wider at the
absolutely.
The middle bit.
The equator.
That's the word. Thank you. Then it is sort of.
So it's like a little ball that you've squashed slightly.
Very slightly, yeah. slightly. And
Yeah.
also, it isn't flat either. The Earth isn't flat. You think mountains, and then you take the water out, you've got deep sea trenches and stuff like that. So it's not just like a football. That's why you've got like places for the water to sit. It's because there's great big dips in the world. You know what I mean? And I kind of... Why would somebody think it's flat? I mean, there is something called... Somebody tried to prove this, which was great. I loved this because this was so funny. I don't know, did you look into the Bedford level experiment?
No, I don't think so.
Well, on the old Bedford River, there is a canal that is 9.7 kilometres in length, right? So a flat earth theorist did an experiment where he put a stick in the water and then told his mate to row down the canal. And due to the curvature of the earth, by the time he got a certain level or certain far out down this canal, he shouldn't be able to see him because he's gone over the curvature of the earth.
Yep.
Right? So he did that, and that's one of his ways he proved that it was flat. And then some other guy come along, can't remember his name now, Rowbottom, something like that, come along, and then Rowbotham, came along and said, yes, I get your point, but you've not taken into light refraction into this, which we've looked into quite extensively, and because of light refraction off of water and temperatures and atmospheres and stuff like that, that's why you could still see him because of the way light moves, yeah?
Yeah.
So he recreated this experiment, and they had a bit of a bet on this one, right? Now, basically, they set a sight line for 13 feet above the water, which reduced the effects of the atmospheric refraction. And then they put a pole in the middle that could be used to see the bump caused by the curvature of the Earth between the 2 points. And then they obviously set off. Now, he proved the point to do with light refraction and won the bet. Now, the original guy refused to accept the demonstration. So, but Wallace, this was all refereed, this was all properly looked at and, judged by people. And the referee said, no, he's done more than you did, and he's proved the point. And basically, they had to sue the original guy for the money for the bet. It got really nasty. It got really, really nasty. It went to court and everything.
Oh dear.
To prove this, but he wouldn't give up the point that he had disproved the flat Earth theory using this particular experiment. The original guy wouldn't give it up. It was when I was reading this account, I was like, "Oh my goodness me!"
Why? What I want to know is why any of the flat Earth theorists ever found the edge of the Earth? Haven't they realised now that isn't one?
What?
If you got the flat Earth theorists, stuck them in a boat and said, "Go and row to the edge of the Earth," then off they'd go, wouldn't they? And they'd realise that they couldn't actually find it because it doesn't exist.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I think if you really wanted to prove the theory, you would get in a boat and keep going round and round until you realise that you keep going round and hitting the same points of land. And when you cross that land and get back in your boat, that you go around and then realise that you just hit the same. You know what I mean? I do think you're right there, but some of the things that they use to explain this. I mean, they reckon that, like at the Arctics, they're like, there's a big wall that's manned by like the military to keep you away, and that's why nobody's hit the edge, because anybody who does gets killed.
Right. Okay. Now they're venturing into Game of Thrones now, aren't they?
It gets weird. It gets really, really weird. But because what they do, they buy into a lot of things called the Zetetics, which is a 19th century philosophy that takes human sensory experience as the highest form of truth. Now, if you think about that, if you only go on what you particularly experience, your own person experiences, then yes, the Earth is completely flat.
Yep.
Because you're not taking into any anybody else's knowledge or experience. You're only taking in your own. And that's worrying a little.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't expand your own knowledge base at all in any way, shape or form. Because no matter where you go, even if I travelled to America, yeah, it would still seem like I've gone over a flat surface. Because how I get there.
Yeah, because...
Do you know what I mean?
Because the curvature of the Earth isn't that severe that you would notice it.
Well, because it's so big, you've got to think in relative...
Yeah.
You know, you've got to think of it in regards to how small you are compared to how big the Earth is. I mean, the circumference of the world is 40,075 kilometres.
Not far.
That's large. That's a lot, isn't it? That's a lot. That's, you know, it's more than a day's walk. 40,075 kilometres. That's not miles, that's kilometres. Yeah? So, when you think how tiny we are on something that big...
We could do it in 80 days.
How big would you have to be to actually view the curvature of the Earth? But when we went to Dulwich, think about when we went to Dulwich, Paul. We were stood on the cliff top, weren't we? We was looking out.
I didn't go, but okay.
You was in Dulwich.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that one. Yeah, all right. I'll let you have that one.
When we went to Dulwich, and you could see right out, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And what could we see when we looked right out?
The horizon.
Yes, but it was like, it weren't like flat, was it? You could sort of see, sort of like a ship.
Yeah, very slight curvature, wasn't it?
There's a really slight curvature, and you're looking at that going, wow, and we were going, wow, look at that, that's amazing. It was because it was such a clear day. You could see, not hugely, you could see like over the edge of the Earth or anything stupid like that, but you could just slightly see that it was not just dead flat. On a misty day, it would have been... You wouldn't have been able to have seen as far as we could see that particular day. But also, you've got to remember that your eyes can only see a specific distance as well.
Yeah.
Right, Lee has just put... Then there's the flat earth theory that claims our sun is a mere 3,000 miles above us now, having a diameter of over 860 million miles. All we'd see is sun all day and all night, and we'd all have healthy tans.
I did actually read that
I did too.
They thought it was that close.
But then they don't think the sun is as big as it is, do they?
No.
They don't believe that point either.
No, indeed.
And then Ashley
I mean,
said,
if you stripped the Earth down, took all the water off, you'd just be stuck with like a little circle bit in the middle, and then offshoots of land. with nothing in between.
It wouldn't be flat or a sphere, would it?
No, but then that's what I was saying about the water in zero gravity, and it just stuck to the Earth, and that's where we get our whole curvature from.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had to pick my son up today because he was ill from school, and as we were walking home, I've been looking into gravity. And as we were walking home, I just out of curiosity, he's 11, bearing in mind, I said to him, Leo, what's gravity? And he went, it's the thing that holds us onto the ground. He goes, because if not, we're walking past this fence at the time. He grabs onto this fence. He goes, if not, I'd have to walk home like this. And my legs would be in the air. And he's walking along, holding onto this fence. Oh, bless him. How cute is that? Of course,
I thought he was going to say you pushed him over and said, that's gravity.
I'm not that wicked a mother. Another argument that they've used is, you know, when you get the time-lapse photographs of the stars and they go round in like a circle... Yeah, the time lapse that they do, like, it's really effective when you see it. But the North Star is involved in that because that's a pinned point of reference, isn't it? It never changes position. Well, that's to do with relative motion, and they say, well, that wouldn't happen because it would be all over the place. It would zigzag all over the place if we were moving, but they forget about relative motion as well. So, we're all moving at the same speed as the Earth is spinning. That's why we don't feel that motion.
Well, that's it.
Because we're in something called constant velocity, everybody. Love that term. Which is why if you're on a bus and it's moving in a straight line at the same speed, you'd be able to throw a ball and catch it. But it has to be moving at the same speed because you're in constant velocity.
You're obviously not in a bus in London, then, are you?
It's clearly not. You wouldn't try it on a bus in London. You'd probably cause a massive row. And that because we are on the Earth and we're moving at the same velocity as the Earth is moving, because we're on it. Yeah, that's why we can't feel how fast it is, because we're in that same constant velocity. And that's something called relative motion. And that's to do with the stars as well. And that's why we get this effect
when you were
with
saying
the
about the
stars.
time lapse, when you said about the time lapse of the stars, you're looking from the ground up, so you again, it's going to be different wherever you are on the planet. If you're at the top hemisphere, you're going to see it going around you, aren't you? But if you're at the side of the planet,
it's not going to change. You're still going to get the same effect. You'll still get the same effect.
Is it okay? Is it still going to go round though?
Yeah. Because we go round.
Well, no. What I mean, I know that they still go around, obviously, but there'd be a difference in how they go around, if that makes sense. No,
well, you get different constellations wherever you are in the world, because we're not fixed accessing space, and we're not fixed space in time. We move in space as much as we do in a circle.
Yeah, so not only is the planet spinning, it also wobbles as well.
Exactly, which is what causes the seasons.
Yes.
And affects the tides with the moon, because the gravitational pull from the moon is what causes the tides on Earth, on the water, because it's more fluid. That's why it has an effect on the ocean and not the land, because water is obviously a fluid. Yeah?
Yep.
So, because of all that, I don't know, I've lost my point now. We're also going round the sun.
Yes.
The sun doesn't go around us, does it?
365 days. Actually, it's 365 and a quarter.
Everything is in motion. That's why the constellations move. At different times of the year, you'll see different constellations at different points of the sky. And if you was in Australia, you might see different constellations that we, at different times to how we see them. Yeah, 1,000 miles per hour we're relatively spinning. Relative motion. Thank you, Lee. 1,000 miles per hour. That's a lot, isn't it?
Indeed. It is, isn't it?
If gravity stopped, we'd all go, God, how quick would we all go spinning off?
That'd be hilarious. What a fairground ride that'd be.
Until we hit the atmosphere, we'd all burn up. Oh, that was fun.
Do it again.
Oh dear.
Catch another planet as you go past.
Yeah. Catch a falling star. I keep singing in shows at the moment. It's really bad. Catch a falling star. Jesus Christ. So it's all... And also, somebody once said that where they were stood, they could see... Oh, God, it's a well-known phenomenon. In the salt plains, there's a salt plain somewhere that's really huge. But they reckon they could see right across. And that's because of the moisture. It's like, again, it's a light refraction thing, and light can refract due to so many different factors. It goes straight if you're out in space, because there's nothing for it to stop it. Yeah. But on Earth, when it comes into the atmosphere, there's things like altitude affect it, moisture in the air, pollution, temperature, pressure, moisture, water being the main one for light refraction. And then they go, but I could see so and so a million miles away, and you go, yeah, but that's because the light was refracting at a specific angle on that particular day that you saw it. It's only been seen sometimes when the conditions were right, not all the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's all good fun. I think
Awesome.
Lee's losing the will to live, and he thought he'd get a serious discussion on this, serious scientific talk.
And instead you got falling off the planet at 1,000 miles an hour.
Spinning off into space, yeah.
That's it.
I've tried, guys. All I can say is I really tried to understand some of these concepts, to argue the points that the flat earth theorists came up with. And I'm not a physicist.
Okay. Do you want to go into the facts and figures and the maths of it all?
No, thanks. No, I really, really don't want to do that, because we get into things like Jesus Christ, we get into things that I was just like brain dribbling out of ears.
I'm not sure Jesus Christ had too much to do with it, though.
I think Jesus has got an absolute lot to do with this kind of theory, to be fair. It's called an oblate spheroid, is actually what the Earth is.
Okay.
I can tell you loads about the density, mass and volume of the Earth.
One of the articles I read earlier as well, they said about the moon, the light on the moon. If you get a ball and shine a torch on a ball, you don't get a full illumination of one side of the ball. You only get a little bit of illumination on it because apparently spheres are not that good at reflecting light. And that was another theory for the flat Earth.
That's why we only get one side of the moon shown to Earth, and it's something called the dark side of the moon.
Yes, I know this. But the idea is that you because it's a full surface, it's not actually. I don't know. They say something about the sphere and stuff. I don't know.
There is a thing that they call it the fake moon, don't they? So because again, part of the conspiracy theory is that they use. It's almost like somebody sitting there with a fake moon, and then what they do is they move a bit over every day, just so we believe that the Earth is round. So the links that these people who are actually trying to fool us into thinking that we live on a sphere go to try and make us believe that we actually live on a sphere.
I'd say a sod climbing up that ladder just to move it an inch.
You've got to move it an inch tonight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a job for a job description, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Heights? Are you good with heights? Because we need you to climb up a huge ladder to move a fake moon just over the moon that's up there. I mean, come on now. Yeah, it was to do with a fake moon. A fake moon, really.
Well, apparently, when Richard Clements was living in Australia, he noticed the moon was upside down.
Wow. There you go.
That's what he
it's
said.
It's a Truman Show. Yes, Ashley,
there might be something in it.
There might be something in it. Might be cameras in the walls watching you right now. Eyes are everywhere.
Indeed.
Not that I'm paranoid today at all, in any way, shape or form, is all I can say. Now, oh gosh. If the Earth is flat, how do we get the trajectory?
Of what?
Anything. If we're going to send a spaceship up into space, it's got to go at a specific trajectory. I can't even say it.
You aim it up.
Well, they do.
I don't think these people that think of the flat Earth theory, they don't. They're going on.
I thought it had to hit the
silly
atmosphere at an angle to break through
but
the atmospheric level.
We're talking about the flat Earth theorists now. They're not.
Oh, so
very
we've got too many.
scientific
We're going to have to pull
approach.
these people on because clearly they're far too knowledgeable about sciencey stuff than we are.
No, they're not. They're not. They don't bring in the science at all. If you send a spaceship up into space, you're literally sending it straight up. The only reason that you see the space shuttles now go up and then it sort of curves out, it's not curving out at all, is it, really? It's just going with the shape of the Earth.
There's something wrong with that statement, I'm sure. I thought they couldn't hit the atmospheric barrier straight on because the pressure would be too great, so they sort of come at it sort of like a slight angle and then they break through more at an angle than they do straight on. I don't know. I'm not a NASA specialist, and trust me, I'm really not a NASA specialist. Richard's going, no, that's not right. I'm not sure he's saying no to you or me.
As soon as they launch from the moon, it'd be so much easier.
Well, there is a moon base already. You do know this, don't you?
Is there?
Apparently so. That's a different conspiracy theory completely, though. Or is that Mars? That might be on Mars.
It'd just be so much easier to launch from the moon because you could just have a little bloke pushing them off. Off you go.
Boom, and I'm launched. It's because the moon has no atmosphere, and you have to punch through that atmospheric level, don't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking stuff that we really haven't got a clue about here, so we could be really talking stupid stuff at this point. All I know is...
The whole thing is silly stuff. It really... The flat Earth theorists...
Thank you, Richard.
Look at it at face value. They're not applying... I mean, as we've already discussed, they've not even thought about gravity.
I have to say, when I looked at this, the main point of their arguments was to do with gravity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as I said, the guy with the football and then the plate, and he said the water doesn't stick to the football, but it does the plate, and that's his whole belief system in a nutshell.
Yeah, but when you've got a ball and you pour water on it, the gravitational pull of the natural gravitational pull of the Earth is going to pull the liquid you've poured onto the ball to the centre of the Earth, as effectively to the ground, yeah?
Yes.
Which looks like it's just going down, but it's not, it's going inwards.
Well,
but
I know this,
it's
you know
not
that.
going to stick on it, is it? Whereas a plate has got a dip in it, and if you put that, the gravitational pull is keeping it in the dip, and there's nowhere for it to naturally run off. Now, if you break the dish, then you'd see the water happen, its habit would be exactly the same.
Exactly, and this is my point. They're not bringing science into play when they come out with their theories.
Well, I honestly think that they kind of ignore science and physics completely.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the gyroscope on aeroplanes. That was quite a big thing as well, the gyroscope that you have on aeroplanes, and that pilots are... to do with they don't know how their equipment works, and if they were right, it's all fixed, so it's fixed, so the pilots think that it just looks like they're driving
along flat,
or flying on a flat rather than going over the curvature of the Earth. But again, they take out so many factors of flying an aeroplane. It's not just a question of get it up there, let it go in a straight line and come back down. There's wind factors and atmospheric pressures and God knows what else that the plane is having to readjust all times. And the gyroscope is linked to gravity, which pulls to the centre, not just down. So that's why the gyroscope won't change its direction like the spirit level.
Exactly.
Like
and
if you think of the spinning top.
Constant.
Yeah, like a gyroscope is like the same effect as if you had a spinning top on a table. Yeah.
Yep.
If you moved the table, the spinning top would stay upright. The table wouldn't be, because the spinning top is still reacting to gravity, and the table isn't, because you've moved the table. And that's how a gyroscope works. In regards to aeroplanes, it's exactly the same factor, but the pilot is not relying on just one instrument. He's got like a million other instruments and tiny kind of, things he has to be readjusting all the time to fly the plane in general. So one tiny thing, like, is it flat or round, is sort of like a bit by the by, really, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
Gets back down again.
Because they're higher up as well than us, they get in a different view of the planet. So they would see a better curvature than what we do.
But you can. That's the point, isn't it? When you're up in an aeroplane, if you get a clear sight line, which you don't often get, to be fair, because of clouds and stuff, then you can see a little curvature. Because it depends, again, if you was huge, it's all down to relative size. You're tiny. Yeah. You're so tiny on the face of this Earth that you're not going to really be able to see that far, that you're going to be able to see the curvature when you're looking at a 40,075 kilometre distance for the circumference of the Earth. You know what I mean? I'm really proud I found that fact out. Anyway, well, yes, it's to do with friction as they break through the atmosphere. They have to sort of hit it, I'm sure they have to hit it at an angle and not go punch straight through it.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good to me.
So when we launch our rocket, in fact, sod it, let's set up a GoFundMe so we can prove that the Earth is round. Oh, yeah, sorry, why not? NASA already did that.
Yeah, Apollo 14 or 13, right?
I mean, God, the poor astronauts, all these people that have been up into space and are actually currently up there. There are people up there now, aren't there?
Yeah.
on the International Space Station. I bet
would
they
say
sit
on
there
the
and think,
Earth.
God, why are we actually bothering if there's still people that believe the Earth is flat?
But it depends on what they're in there for, though, isn't it? Because they do different experiments for different things, don't they?
True.
They're not out there. They're not up there to prove the Earth is round. That's not what they're there for.
No, but when they sit there, and they must be sitting there sometimes thinking, Jesus Christ alive. There's some really
but they do.
silly people down there on that Earth.
Yeah. And we just need to breed them out, I think.
breed the selective breeding. We're now going into Nazism. Did Nazism have a point with selective breeding? Oh God! Now there's a show.
And it just that's next week anyway. So we'll cover that next week.
Oh God! That was a joke, everybody. That was not meant to be offensive at all in any way, shape, or form. That's my inappropriate sense of humour yet again coming out onto the table.
I see. Slap your wrists.
I know.
So what's going on? What's going on in the chat room then? What comments have we got?
Richard, when he said no, was actually talking to you. Ashley was saying it's friction as they break through the atmosphere. Lee is going on about the trajectory. There we go. It's called the slingshot method. Then Richard has said the Earth is not a perfect sphere; it bulges at the equator. I did say that. Oh, yes, she's talking about thrust. More thrust to push up to break free of the Earth's gravity closer to the surface. Less as you get higher. Then they arc to engage an orbital pattern so they don't drift off into space. That makes sense.
Yeah,
actually,
so they basically go up and then follow the shape of the Earth. That's pretty much what I said.
That is what you said, but he said it more sensibly, more
I've done it. I've done it in layman terms.
Yeah, I know. That was the point. When I was trying to look at some of these concepts, I have to dumb things down for my layman term for me to understand it. And some of the sites I was looking at were just a little bit too involved, I think was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the sites that I was looking at today with the history of the flat Earth theory and stuff, that their arguments for it wasn't scientific at all in any way. It was just, as I said, leaving out the gravity and all that sort of stuff, and it just didn't cover the science behind it.
Well, no, they don't, because then if they do that, then they've actually got to look at, how can you disprove something that's been proved, like gravity.
I just found it
how
quite
can you
interesting.
disprove that? Oh, some of them are really weird and wacky, and they don't know their equipment. Like we were looking at, one of the arguments was like we talked about the gyroscope. That's quite easily explained. Like the spirit level experiment that they did, it's quite easily explained, but it's almost like they won't look at the science and believe the science because it doesn't back up their theory. So it's like selective dismissal of science. You know what I mean?
And it shocked me as well that the ancient Egyptians believed that the Earth was flat as well. Considering their knowledge of the star system and all that, they could grasp all that. But when it comes to the Earth, it was flat. I wouldn't have thought of that of them.
But again, you're going so far back in time that they can only go on, if you want to look at the statistics theory, then that's kind of how they were back in the day, because they could only have knowledge in regards to their own experience, their own time, in their own time. If you've not travelled and your understanding, yes, they had some amazing concepts in regards to buildings and stuff like, building the pyramids and stuff. But, again, that's not really been explained as far as I'm aware. They think they know how that was achieved now, but it's taken them a long time to get to that point in today's understanding, and that just seemed to come more naturally to them. But in regards to, spreading their knowledge further in regards to I mean, God, they believed that Ra pushed across a scarab pushed a dung ball across the earth, and that was the sun. You know that they believed that too.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, Lee.
Okay.
Lee, please. You're getting far too knowledgeable in the chat room. He said layman terms are the educated theorist's way of crunching the data. I thought it was dumbing down something to make it more understandable.
Well, I understand it either way, so that's fine.
Yeah. And who was the Archimedes chap who calculated the circumference of the Earth? I have no idea.
Okay. No, I know that they pretty much believe. They pretty much believed that the Earth was flat until Aristotle came along, and then I read out his reasoning.
That's right.
And it's the elephants that convinced everyone. I think that's what done it. When he came out with all the other logical explanations, they were like, "No, you're talking rubbish." It was the elephants. They're like, "Yep, I heard the elephant theory. I'm convinced." That's what done it. It was the elephants.
To be fair, I've got to say, if this wasn't an issue on the table in this day and age, I kind of wouldn't even query it. I've got
no.
Is it flat? Is it round? I'm living and trying to work out if ghosts are real. Is actually what I'm trying to do. Is that just as bad a theory as what they believe? Some would say that. Thank you,
Indeed.
Aristotle.
Yeah, Aristotle.
I suppose we're not caning them, but we're looking at why they might believe it. But we looked at psychology earlier, this conspiracy theorists' psychology. But is this any more bonkers than us trying to prove that, spirits and ESP and that sort of thing are real? But then I would say that we've probably got a fair chance of, at least that hasn't been proved, whereas they're believing in something that has already been proved.
I think going back again to the beginning of the whole theory anyway, and I think it's pretty much the literalists that took the Bible literally. So when the Bible was talking about the flat earth and, well, not the flat earth because I didn't call it that, but the corners of the earth and stuff like that, they pictured it being flat, and I think that's where that whole idea comes from. But then Aristotle come along and the Christians changed their whole view on the subject. But I still think there's people out there that believe the Bible can be taken literal, and that is where the flat earth theory stems from. And I think that's where it came from.
Yeah. I mean, going right back at the beginning of the conversation, Ashley did put something in, he said it again, so I'm going to bring it up. He said, you just got to look at the sun or the moon. They are round for a reason. However, the easiest way is to put a stick in the ground. When the sun is overhead, the stick casts no shadow. At the same time, 500 miles north, the stick does cast a shadow.
Yes, absolutely. And they're hanging around because they've got nowhere else to go.
Because you're too busy looking at your sticks.
Yeah.
But
anyway, we're coming up to the end of the show now.
Well, you've got 7 minutes yet, mate.
You still got to go through what's happening this week, so...
Yes, I do have to go through what's happening this week if you wish to go that route. Right. Well, okay, being as we have exhausted that subject for our knowledge base, Supernatural Chat Show tomorrow is with Sean Cadman, and he's got the lovely Vivian Powell on with him. I
like Vivian, she's alright.
And she's awesome. Yeah, we covered that really quickly, didn't we, Ashley? See, we debunked that theory really quickly. Oh, dear. Anyway, so tomorrow we've got...
Next week's the Nazi take on it. But,
the next week we're going for Nazi natural selection. No, we're joking. We're so joking on that one. We are not doing that, Paul Rook. I'm just telling you now. Right, Supernatural Chat Show with Vivian Powell tomorrow night. She is a psychic medium as well as being one of the co-organisers of Paraforce Convention. So she is coming on tomorrow night with Sean to probably tell us all the updates and announcements that's going on. But also, she was bringing up a concept the other day that a paranormal medium is different from a platform medium. So I'm hoping she's going to cover that as well. And then followed by that, we've got Haunted Histories with Penny G. Morgan. And she's talking about the Winchester House. She's got one of the Ghost Brothers on. She's got Dalen on from the Ghost Brothers. You know, the TV series?
Are they good? No, because I don't watch TV series.
No, but you want to catch that one because it's really funny. Really funny. So and they're really good. So the Ghost Brothers, Dalen is on tomorrow night with Penny. And they're talking about the Winchester House, which is a film out.
Cool.
They're all going, oh, time flies when you're spinning and travelling around the universe at 1,000 miles per hour, I would just like to add.
It does, indeed.
It's called gravity for you. Now, on Thursday night, Kaz Rooney is in the studio with the Spectral Zone. She has got North Knots Paranormal Events team on, and she's talking to them, trying to pin them down on what it is they do and how they do it, and all things paranormal. Just like to give a little shout out to Paramania show. Myself and Jay Lynch are over on another channel on Paramania. It gets played out on a Monday on the Parasearch UK Radio Encore show. But if you want to listen to it live and be interactive in the chat room, it's actually playing live on the Paramania show. And we're talking about rules in regards to locations. Jay is on a little bandwagon at the moment, has got a little few bugbears about American locations, so I'm dreading that one. Oh, great. On a Friday evening on Parasearch Radio, we have got the Dark Mirror Show. That is myself and Kaz Rooney and Mark Manley, and we're talking Native American myths. We had to pre-record this show, just saying. And we did that today, and I'm I'm just telling you, I couldn't finish the show. That's all I'm saying on that one. Give it a listen. I'll be in the chat room as always. I couldn't actually finish the show, and if you have a listen, you'll understand why. My inappropriate humour, again, is all I'm saying. And then on Sunday evening, we've got the Spirit Dimension with myself and Claire, and we're talking to the lovely Bianca Eleanor all about different forms of spiritual therapy, healings, like Reiki.
Do you cover the Great Paranormal Debate?
Oh, gosh, no, I forgot that, sorry. Oh, my God.
I'm disgusted.
Oh, my God, it's because it's only just been launched. It's not in the diary. Oh, my God. Yeah, Friday night, we've got the Great Paranormal Debate with Kerry Ann and Paul Rook, just as well you're here to... I'm going to write that in my diary right now. Oh.
Yeah, you do that.
I work too hard. All I'm saying is I work far too hard.
Great Paranormal Debate, Fridays at 8 o'clock till 9.
Yes, the Great Paranormal Debate.
And we're talking about all the stories of the week. Debunking them all.
Followed by the Dark Mirror Show. And then
talking about the Round Earth Theory.
The Round Earth Theory. And then on Sunday we talk the Spirit Dimensions, Bianca Eleanor. Yes, sorry, I do apologise for the Great Paranormal Debate. I do apologise for... Oh, Jesus, I'm losing it. Time to retire.
Yeah, and next week, on a serious note, we are talking about haunted artwork.
Yes, we are.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes, we're going to have a look at haunted artwork.
And debunking some of that.
Or not.
Oh, no, I think we'll debunk some of it.
Or not, as the case may be.
Indeed.
We'll see what we can find on that one to stun you with our acumen.
Yeah.
I've been watching Silence of the Lambs recently, you can tell, can't you?
We'll rock it as always.
Of course we will. Anyway, on that note...
it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.